Welcome. You're listening to the Bump Podcast, a place for believers of the unexplained, monsters, and paranormal. I'm your host, Bo Kennedy. Join us as we go face to face with what goes bump in the night.
Hi, my name is Ashley, and I live in St. Louis, Missouri. And I'm going to talk today a little bit about some interesting things that have happened in my life and how I ended up where I've ended up on my spiritual journey. I guess I'll tell you a little bit about my background. I have 3 children. My youngest is 19. My oldest is 25. And growing up, I wasn't exposed to a lot of church, but I always felt this draw since I was really little. I was very intrigued with the idea of God, and I used to ask my parents to drop me off at church by myself, and the little church bus would come pick me up, and I always wanted to go to VBS, and those are things that because of the way I was raised. I was raised in the South at a big Southern family. And on the weekends, all my family would be drinking and playing country music. And that's just, that was what I was exposed to, which was a lot of fun. But at the same time, when I had children, I wanted it to be a little more functional. So I always took them to church every Sunday. And that's when my relationship with my higher power really started to grow. I went to a non-denominational, which, can you see me?
It went back to just showing your iPhone. There it is.
I'm sorry.
No big deal.
I'm sorry, my daughter's trying to call me, so.
It's okay.
Anyway, where was I?
You went to a non-denominational church.
So I went to non-denominational, and at the time I was a stay-at-home mom, and I got involved in like this weekly Bible study or whatever with other women. And I just started to learn a lot about the Bible. I knew the Old Testament, but mainly what I was learning about were the teachings of Jesus. And I really, over probably 15 years, really developed a relationship with Christ. And with that said, that brings me into going into my shamanic experience. I divorced in 2011, and I, had always had this dream of, the American dream. You get married, you have kids, you grow old, you watch your grandkids play, blah, blah, blah. Well, I think that's amazing for anyone who can make it happen, but it didn't work out for me, and I was crushed. And so I ended up, because I was a stay-at-home mom, this makes me emotional a little bit, the whole time my children were small. And my husband had a really good job in IT, and I didn't have anything. I had just given up everything for my kids, which is awesome. But when you divorce and you seriously have no skills, really, to market, I didn't have a college degree or anything. I ended up having to leave my kids because their dad didn't want to give me child support, all that, so anyway, it was a dark time for me. I was totally distraught. And my son was starting to have visions. And it was really freaking me out. You know, I was like, okay, he's going off the deep end. And one day his school counselor, which was a public school, and in public school, you do not talk about religion or suggest things like that to the parents. And his school counselor called me and told me that all of the visions that he was having were very spiritual, and told me that she had a friend that was a shaman and asked me if I would be open to him seeing a shaman. And I was blown away, really. I was receptive, you know, but I lived in a small town where everyone went to church, and it was just bizarre that a public school official or, you know, the counselor would suggest me seeing a shaman, because I knew it was like a medicine man, you know, it was a spiritual type thing.
Right.
And so I told her, you know, I'm open to it, but I want to experience it first, because he was 15 at the time. And, you know, I'm like, I don't know what I'm sending him into. So I wanted a little bit of background on the shaman, and her name is Christy Abashan, and I've seen her several times now, and she's incredible. She is incredible. But she healed her sister, who was on life support at the hospital in the town where I was living at the time. And she had laid hands on her sister all night on life support and prayed. And she had always known that she had a gift. And she said that she just kind of buried it, but she just prayed all night long and said, you know, if you heal my sister, I will devote my life to whatever this is that has been you've tried to show me that I have a gift. So long story short, her sister was healed, a miracle. They took her off life support, and the doctors were, you know, they had no idea how it happened. I mean, she was supposed to die like the next day. It was like worst case scenario. So the shaman went over to like other countries where there's monks and Buddhist monks and gurus, and trained for about 10 years. So I wanted to know what qualified her as a shaman, basically. So I got all the backstory. So I scheduled my appointment with her, and she had a room inside of this. It was like an all natural salon and spa. And she was renting a space there, and I went in. I had no idea what to expect. And so when I went into the room, she had her essential oil diffuser going, and, you know, the Zen music, and, you know, crystals everywhere, and a massage table. And I was like, okay. And so I walked over to the table, and she started to talk to me. And all of a sudden, I got a feeling I'd never felt in my life. It was a warmth, like from head to toe. It was so warm and cozy. And she must have noticed my face, because I'm like, what the heck's going on? And she's like, are you okay? And I said, well, I feel really warm, just all over, real warm. And she's like, that's because they're all here. And I'm like, they who? We're in this room by ourselves. Yeah. And she said, all of your angels and spirit guides, your spirit team. And I'm like, who? You know, like, I've always believed in angels, but I didn't know I had my own, you know. And she said, you basically have a spirit team, and they're always with you for your whole life. It's not like they're just walking around with you, but all, you know, because free will is sacred in the universe. As soon as you ask for them to be with you, they are. It's not like they're imposing on your personal time. Because then I started freaking out, you know. I'm like, what do you mean? Like every minute of the day, what's going on here? So she told me that, she said, you know, people would really be surprised if they knew how much help was always at their disposal. You know, they almost get tickled at us because we've been on the other side with them, and they know that somewhere inside us, we know that power and that connection. But she's like, we're like little rats, like running around in an experiment or something, not knowing what to do. And she's like, there's always help there. So she kind of talked to me for a little bit about Archangel Michael, who I have a really good relationship with now. He is my buddy and he's amazing. And some of the archangels I could call on and things like that. So next she had me lay down on a table on my back, and for about an hour I just laid there. I don't know what she was doing. I closed my eyes. She didn't touch me one time. I have felt really relaxed, I was feeling good. And so when it was over, she told me that my mom came in, and my mom passed away in 2005 suddenly, sorry. And she's my best friend. She was just my whole world, and it was terrible. And so I was, a little taken back, because still you're always skeptical. You're always like, but she explained to me exactly what she looked like to a T. And told me that she was really proud of me and that she loved me. And the one thing that really I knew she was talking to my mom was that she said, because I have an older sister and I have a younger sister, and my mom said, please look out for your younger sister. And I kind of told you about some of my younger sister's journey. And so anyway, that was really emotional for me. She also said that one of my spirit guides came in at the very beginning of the session and sat in the chair next to me the whole time. And she asked him his name, and his name was Joseph. And she said that he had on a robe and some sandals. And I didn't know anything about spirit guides at that point. And she explained to me that they are souls that you have been in other incarnations with that have agreed to guide you, because you basically choose your purpose before you incarnate, and things that you're going to work on in this lifetime. And they stay with you. So it could be like your guardian angels and spirit guides could be people you've spent past lives with, your family, great grandmothers, grandmothers, things like that. I want to back up a little though, because I forgot one really important thing that I want to talk about, because I feel like there might be someone who needs to hear this. Before she called me, my son had been going through some hard stuff, but so had I. And I experienced what she called a dark night of the soul. And I don't know if you've heard of that.
No,
but
I haven't.
You haven't heard of it?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Well, I'm a super bubbly, happy person. I've always been like that, just kind of even keeled, always like, hey, life of the party kind of person. And I got super depressed, so depressed. I was suicidal, and it scared me. I was in a really dark place, and I was like, the life just had no meaning. I felt hopeless. And I remember I was living in an apartment by myself at that time. And I did see my kids, but they weren't with me at that particular moment because of the divorce. And they weren't always with me. So I remember there was a bottle of Benadryl next to my bed. And I was like, and it was full. And I was like, if I just take this whole bottle, I'm not going to feel like this anymore. And it was so scary. It was just the darkest place I'd ever been. And so I just prayed, I said, God, help me, please help me. I don't want to leave my kids, but I don't want to live like this. Surely I have some reason for being here. So I went to Barnes and Noble like the next day. Well, obviously I didn't end up taking the Benadryl, thank God.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to Barnes and Noble, and I picked up the book called Purpose Driven Life by Rick Warren, which I totally hadn't planned on that, but it just called out to me, I guess you could say. I felt like, okay, this is a good book for me to read. I just needed something to help me feel better. So I read that book in like 3 days. And when I was done, I just sat up in my bed and I was like, God, I want to live my purpose. I want to live my purpose. I know that I'm here for something special and I want to do it. And I mean, literally like the next day, I got that phone call from the counselor about the shaman. So back to my shamanic experience. It was over, and when I left there, I felt lighter. I was kind of giddy, but I didn't feel anything amazing, you know. So I'm like, okay, well, whatever, you know, she had to have done something. So I go home, go to bed, and now that I know how energy works, which I'll explain this in a minute, I understand why it was like this. But I woke up the next morning and everything was so bright. All the colors around me were just crisp and clear, and it was springtime, and it was every bird in the universe. It felt like I could hear every bird chirping individually. It was like all my senses were super duper heightened, and I was tripping out. You know, I'm like, oh my God, what is going on? And I felt so light, like I just didn't feel so heavy. And that started my spiritual awakening, which incredible. It was incredible. I felt like I was walking on air for 3 solid months. I mean, people probably thought I was insane because I was so happy. And I asked her, I'm like, what did you do to me? You know, but basically what happens is throughout your life, you know, I've learned a lot about all of this. You have a spiritual body, it's your aura, you know, and it's, you can't see it. Some people can see them, but it's on the outside of your physical body, and it's energy. And you pick up a lot of energy, dense energy everywhere you go. And it's, I realize that it's physical, it feels heavy because I felt so light after she moved it out of my spiritual body. I guess that's how you would put it. But during my awakening, I made some notes because it was so incredible how it all came to me. I mean, you know, I think about that school counselor calling me, and I'm like, what public school counselor calls someone and says, hey, I think your kid needs to see a shaman? So it was like, you know, it was meant to be.
Yep.
But let's see. Basically, I realized that God is so much more than I had ever been taught. You know, as far as religion goes, I guess you could say my consciousness was expanded. I'm still a Christian. I love the Bible. I still read the Bible. But I've also read other religious texts. I love Buddhism. Buddhism really isn't a religion. It's a way of life, but it's a beautiful way of life. Enlightenment. But there is I don't know if you've heard of this book series. I can't remember the author, but it's Conversations with God, where this guy was getting woke up at like the same time in the middle of the night, and he wrote down his conversations with God. And I don't know if it was Matt Lauer was asking him if God had something to say to people, what would he say? And he said God would say, ours is, I think something like, ours is not a better way, it's just a different way. Basically meaning all religions are the same, they're all going to the same place, to the higher power. You know, whether you call it God or Allah, you know, religion is a man-made thing. And a lot of people might disagree with me on this, and that's fine. But this has been my experience and what I've learned. So anyway, during my spiritual awakening, I just had some really magical experiences. For like 3 months straight, I had feathers literally everywhere around me. I collected probably over 100 feathers. And yeah, I mean, there's birds, there's feathers, but how many feathers do you see? You know what I'm saying? They were everywhere. And it was magical. I have always liked being outside. I'm a nature person. But there was a tree. I started sitting under this willow tree at this pond at a local park during that whole time. It was so bizarre because I experienced so much healing under that tree. And I even gave her a name, and my kids made fun of me. Her name was Rita. And I really got like an emotional attachment with this tree, which sounds insane. But, you know, trees also have an energy and their own consciousness. So I've never had that happen with any other tree, you know. But while I would sit under her pretty often, I had animals like I had an otter that would start coming to visit me like every time I was there. And it would just roll around and play right in front of me. And then I had 2 brown colored dragonflies that would always come and just fly right in front of me. And so I asked the shaman, I'm like, what's with these animals? And she told me they're your spirit animals. They're going to start coming to you. So it was the otter and the dragonflies. And then next I had a heron. And I've had this happen twice. It's so bizarre. It wasn't even scared of me. It just came and stood beside me and would not go away. I was just like, taking all kinds of pictures of it. And that's happened twice now. Actually, like last year, I had one come up to me for like an hour when I was fishing, and we were just feeding it fish.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was, you know, very bizarre, and it's all very new. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is my consciousness was expanded, and I couldn't go back to where my consciousness was before I saw the shaman, because I used to think tarot cards were evil. You know, everything I have learned, which now I know that everything can be used for good or for evil. I have tarot card decks, but I don't really feel drawn to use them. I have used them before, but it's not like, it's not the traditional tarot. They're called angel cards. So they have angel messages. And I think when I do it, I know I create like a sacred space, and I ask that only divine guidance from my God, you know, from God comes through. Like I will not touch a Ouija board. There is no way. Like that's just one thing I don't do. I mean, yeah, never. I mean, there's a lot of things to learn. You can't just open yourself up to anything. You know, you have to be spiritually protected, and you have to be calling on the right, you know, source.
Yeah. Oh, I think you froze up on me. Oh no. Ashley, can you hear me? If you can hear me, I can't hear you. You're completely froze up on my screen. If you can hear me, exit out and then jump right back in, and I'll let you back into the room for the Zoom, and it should clear it up.
So hey,
It worked. Hey.
I'm sorry. I'm so
It's
sorry.
okay. It's okay.
I don't know what happened.
It's probably my internet. I live in the booger woods, so it's hard to get good internet service here.
That's cool though. That's so cool. The Bigfoot woods.
Yeah.
Anyway, I began to understand myself a little bit more too. I'm clairsentient, which I don't know if you know what that is, but I'm very sensitive to energy. I wear Dennis out a lot. Just with my senses, I guess, but I can walk into a room and tell you how everybody in the room is feeling. I'm just a very sensitive person. I used to be really super emotional, but I've learned how to tone that down and a little bit. But so that, let's see, I did start meditating. You know, it's like I had such a thirst during this awakening for knowledge. I was reading books, I was listening to gurus, I was going onto YouTube, and not everything resonated, but a lot of it did. And I learned a lot in a short amount of time. I got really interested in meditation, and I started meditating with a crystal grid. And I didn't have like an official crystal grid, which is like a lot of people have like a wooden circle that has like sacred geometry on it, and you strategically place your crystals. But I just drew my own on a piece of paper and put these little crystals I had on there. And I started meditating only for like 30 minutes a day. And I had my first experience seeing energy, and I saw it around my daughter. We were just sitting on my bed talking, and all of a sudden I saw this white wispy smoke like flowing around her body. And it almost looked like cigarette smoke, but it was fast and just really smooth. And, I'm just texting. I have my shaman's number, and everything that happens, I'm like, what is this? What is this? And she's like, that's energy. You're seeing energy. And I was getting what people call angel numbers, like 111. I would look at the clock at 11:11 and 1:11 and 2:22 and 3:33, and just weird things that didn't normally happen. So basically that was my spiritual awakening. I learned about my chakras, about my aura, how energy flows. And then that's when I became interested in energy healing, and I got certified in Reiki healing, which was super cool. I learned about sage. Smudging is what they call it, when you burn sage to clear out the negative energy in your home and around you. In fact, I sent you some, I think with one of the orders.
I keep it on my desk, and I use it.
That's awesome.
I'll get into why I had to use it last week here in a little bit. Go ahead.
Man. Listen, whenever I first got divorced, I got a job as a waitress. I was the server, and I worked my way up to restaurant manager pretty quickly. But I was around so many lower energies, so much working with the public, that I would come home every day after that, and I would sage. And that was like my lifeline. My daughter, when I would sage the house, sometimes she would be like, Mom, I sleep so much better when you do that. I don't know how it all works. I just know that it works.
Right.
And it makes a big difference. So learned a lot about crystals, which, as you know, I love. And I had an experience when I bought my first crystal. It was an amethyst. And I wore it around my neck every day at work. And I'm like, man, I've been feeling so good every day. And I don't know, I could tell that something was happening. Well, I walk up to a table, that I'm waiting on. And this lady asked me, do you ever cleanse your crystal? And I was like, what do you mean? Like wash it with like soap and water? I didn't know what she was talking about. And she's like, no, it's energetically, it's really full. It's absorbed so many negative so much negative energy for you. I'm like, well, I don't know how to cleanse it. So then she told me I could put in a bowl of kosher salt, or, put it in the window on a full moon. She told me all these things I could do. And that just piqued my interest in crystals. So then I went down that, it's like these little rabbit holes everywhere. You start learning all of these things. So I really think that that God did put everything here on this earth for our good. And whether we choose to use whether we choose to use it for our good or not is up to us. I think there are a lot of things that we could use for evil too, but I do think what I already knew from the Bible was that everything that we have here can heal us. And, there's just so much more. And my hope, I prayed before I did this podcast, because I know that a lot of people will be like, she's crazy, or, whatever. I don't know. People have their thoughts. It took me a long time to feel courage enough to even open up to my friends and family, because I was like, they're going to think I'm a witch, but they've been really cool about it. And that's been really nice. They've been really accepting, and because they, you know why? Because they've seen so many positive shifts in my life.
Yeah.
So there's really nothing negative they can say. You know, they've seen a lot of good things happen. So that is going to lead me to the next thing if you want to hear about it.
Can I ask you a couple questions first, because I eat this stuff up?
Please do. Please do.
Okay. Well, first, I appreciate the books that you mentioned, because I love to read, and I will be picking up these books. Purpose Driven Life. You said Rick Warren, is that right?
Yeah.
And Conversations with God.
Yes, and I think that I got the first book, but it has several different, I think it has 3 or 4 books. There is one other book, if you like to read, that I really loved. It's called Proof of Heaven. And it was written by a neurosurgeon who didn't really believe much in God. He went in a coma for 7 days, and is like a medical miracle. But that was a really touching book. He had a near-death experience, and it's so fascinating.
I have that book on my shelf somewhere.
Did you read it?
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. Me and my wife both read it in like a day apiece. It's a short read. It's so good.
Did it make you cry in the one part, or did you get a lump in your throat?
Yes. I'm a crier, so yeah, I'm not. I'm not afraid to say I cried. Yeah.
There is one part that it's really touching. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good book. I got a book for you, since you mentioned Buddhism, and you believe in God. You know, you got that good balance. I read a book. I got it over here too. Let me grab it so I can show you what it looks like too. It's called Living Buddha, Living Christ, and I can't pronounce his name.
Awesome.
Yeah, I got a big office. I just put everything over in one little corner, so it looks a lot more cluttered than what. Yeah, right here, Living Buddha, Living Christ. I don't know if you can read that too well. It may even showing up backward to you. I don't know. I don't have a clue. No, but it shows a lot of the parallels between what Jesus was teaching and what the Buddha teaches. And when I was getting into my spiritual journey, and this book helped me out a lot. You can see I've worn it out. You know, I beat it to death. I can
see that.
And a little coffee table version, same book. It's called Be Still and Know. And it is reflections from this book. So it's just like, it shows like little one-liners basically.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check those out for sure. I mean, there's so much to learn, and people just need to open their minds, because when you don't, you're gonna miss out on some magic, some real beauty. But it's something you have to experience for yourself, because I remember before my awakening, one of my friends was talking about reincarnation, and I actually got peeved. I was like, what? That's so dumb, But then after whatever the shaman did with me, it's like my consciousness was expanded, and I just knew. Yes. I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt so much more, So I would recommend for anyone to have energy healing, to have Reiki, or to go see a shaman. And I mean, you want to make sure that your Reiki practitioner is certified, and you want to know how your shaman became a shaman, because if they became a shaman in a few months' time, I don't think they're probably legitimate, because that's a really high calling, and it takes a very disciplined person to be a shaman. She actually did a soul retrieval on me once in one of my healings. Yeah.
Okay.
So
you're going to have to explain what a soul retrieval is, and since I have one on here right now, I want you to explain to me what Reiki is, because I hear that all the time. I got a couple of friends that they just opened a yoga studio actually,
That's
and
cool.
she's certified Reiki, and I'm like, I don't want to ask what it is, but
Right, right.
I don't really know, it's that side of things. I don't know.
Basically, I'm like the portal. I'm the channel of the energy. I had to go and be certified. There's 3 different levels, I believe, before the master. I'm not a master. I want to be a master. But basically, it's divine life force energy. To me, as a Christian, I would say it's like the Holy Spirit.
Okay,
To get
awesome.
idea is that you're calling on that Reiki energy to flow through you, and just talking about it, I can already feel it flowing through my hands.
Wow.
To flow through you to the recipient. And when I was actually being attuned to it, I heard from Jesus, and he said, it made me cry. He said that he would be beside me when I was healing others. And my shaman has actually told me that Jesus has healed in her, beside her, many times, because he can be in a million different places at once.
Yes, I love it. I absolutely
Yeah.
love it.
He
See, I
said that,
love talking.
huh?
I love talking to you guys, because I feel like we're on the same wavelength as far as this goes. There is so much room inside of Christianity for these things, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't know why there's a stigma against, you, like you said, God puts everything here for a reason.
Yeah.
So these crystals aren't here just to look at and stick in your wristwatch.
Right.
There's a reason for them.
Sure.
And I love that you are so open and you can explain it in a way that even somebody
Well,
as dumb as me can figure out.
right. No, I know what you're saying. It's really, the whole journey is so amazing, and I'm not perfect. I'm so not perfect. I'm so far from perfect. It's incredible. you know, um, but I'm always striving to learn and to know and to be better. But yeah, I have my opinions on everything, I guess, but I try to be respectful of other people's too. But yeah, my shaman did say that she said Jesus is so beautiful, so beautiful. Just everything about him is beautiful. And I was like, man, how cool would that be, just to stand in his presence? I mean, this is a person, and I will tell you, after I had that experience with my shaman, that I read my Bible differently. Things come
Yeah.
across to me differently now. When Jesus says, I came to show you who God is,
Yes.
the way, truth, and the reason he did that is because everything he did we can do, but we can't. Like I was saying, the shaman has to be very disciplined. It all goes down to like energy and vibration. You want to be spiritually pure, and that is so hard to achieve because we're humans.
Yeah.
But he was perfect. He was perfect. But as a human being, it's hard to get there. My shaman, she only eats life-giving foods. And I'm like, where's my Doritos?
Right.
It's such a hard life. You have to abstain from a lot of things to keep your vibration and your energy very, very high. And that was Jesus. Jesus was probably vibrating just amazing energy.
Yeah.
And that's why he could do the things he did. So when people raise their vibration, when they are more spiritually pure, they can connect it's like tuning in a radio. It's like the old radios, you're tuning the dial and it's all staticky. But the higher your vibration goes, you're tuning in and it becomes crystal clear. So for my shaman, she has a clear just channel. She's open to everything. She probably lives in a completely different reality than we do because she's wide open.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
So
Well, let me ask you this too. You talked about, and you filled a gap for me.
mm-hmm.
I 110% believe in reincarnation. I spent a lot of hours praying, my grandmother passed away in 2009. We were super, super, super close. She was like another mom. And I spent, you said you went through a dark time. I went through about 5 years of depression. When she passed, it was like the cherry on top. It was like the last straw. I broke. I'll be honest. I completely broke for years. And I moved back home from the Air Force, and I was working. I was actually an underground coal miner. I had worked there for a couple of years, and you get a lot of time by yourself, on move crew. Things when you have slow nights, you get a lot of time to think. And I would pray, and I was wanting to know what was after this. Like I was confident. She was a Christian lady. I was confident that she wasn't being banished to hell or anything like that. And that got me thinking, well, when you die, they, in my belief, on Judgment Day, that's when God will come down, and that's when you go to heaven or you go to hell. I didn't see her going to heaven as soon as she died, because I couldn't wrap my head around, okay, you die, you go to heaven, then there's Judgment Day. What, do you come back down and get judged and then go back up? They didn't make sense to me.
Right. No, I know exactly.
So I was worrying about it and praying on it all the time. And I was going through from one side of the coal mine, I was going through a section to the other, and it's all blocked off with these big heavy curtains. They're called check curtains. It kind of blocks the air and keeps you from, suffocating. And so I walked through there, and as I was pushing that curtain back, I swear it was like somebody whispered in my ear the word reincarnation.
That's cool.
And I never thought twice about it again. I was like, okay, that's it. Well, when you start talking about, I said all that to say this, when you was talking about these spirit guides are with you, and you're kind of like a type of soulmate, basically. Like you stay with a soul system or whatever, and they're moving through with you. That fills a big gap for reincarnation. Like, who's to say that they're not sitting this one out while I go through this life, and they're still there with you, but just not in person.
Sure.
I really appreciated learning that from you tonight. That's all.
Right. Well, and I'm happy to hear that you get to choose, you'll never be forced to come back here and reincarnate, but many, many souls do. And some souls choose to reincarnate until the end of time. Like, I don't know how that all works, but my shaman did tell me that, like, there's ancient souls that have just, my son, this could get really deep, but I'll just say really quick. My son, after she saw him for the first time, she came out with a big smile on her face, and she said, your son is a starseed. That's what she told me. And I'm like, what is that? And she said, a starseed is a soul from another star system that chooses to incarnate on the planet Earth. What? And you wouldn't believe the visions that he has had. And yes, they're all very spiritual. He's a really, after she said that and I looked into it, I was like, oh my God, this makes sense. I would have parented him so differently. He was not a bad kid, but he was so buck wild. And it was like he was running around going, yay, I'm on Earth again. This is so cool. I mean, everything was so much fun for him. Yeah. And, he has these quirky ways about him. He's, I just can't explain it. And then, like, the day he was born, he came out talking. He didn't cry. You know how they do the APGAR and they give their score and all that on how well they cry when they're born. He was like, and everyone in the room was laughing. And I'm like, he was probably like, I'm here, but yeah.
Wow. Wow. That is so cool.
Oh man, he's so much fun to talk to. We get into some deep conversations.
I guess so.
Yeah.
And you said your shaman's name was Christy Abishon?
Aubuchon, Aubuchon. She's out of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. And I will tell you, this gets into quantum physics and things like that. This is what will lead into my next story about how Dennis and I met and how that was all divine. The most powerful session I ever had with her was a distant session. She wasn't even with me. But she traveled, her spiritual body came to me. So I didn't see her. But I had said something very specific to my guides before that healing session that I wanted to know about. And I got my answer through her. So I was, you know, you can't deny it. I experienced it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you can deny it, but I can't deny it because I experienced
I don't deny it.
Yeah. I really would love for you to experience it. But did you have any more questions on that?
I think I can shut up for a minute. I know I kept going on, but I love this.
I will tell you super duper quick. Growing up, I lived in Alabama for the first 12 years of my life. So every church that I went to told me I was going to hell.
Yeah.
I was freaking terrified. And this is my own personal belief, and it's probably going to step on some of your listeners' toes, but I don't believe in hell. I don't believe in hell. God is love, and we are his children, and he would never, ever send us to hell. However, this is kind of how I believe. You know how I was talking about being spiritually pure and affects your vibration and your connection to God. We can choose to disconnect from that energy, our own self. And our consciousness, when we die, will still be very alive. And say, for instance, you are a really bad person. You are just a bad human. I mean, there's just bad humans out there, you know, and it stinks, but there is. And no, I don't know what they're involved in, but something really dark, you know, something underground, something terrible, and they die. Well, their consciousness is going to be at that level. So where their consciousness resides is going to be at that level. So it's going to be dark. It's not going to be good. You know what I mean? So if you have a pure heart full of love and you're a good person and you're maintaining that connection, my belief is that when you die, you will be in a good place with God. Yeah. So some people say God, some people say spirit, some people say the great I am. I think they're all the same.
Yeah.
That's my personal belief.
I love it.
So
tell me about how you and Dennis became lovebirds.
This is hilarious, really. So I had worked my way up. I was working for Ruby Tuesday as a server. Then I worked there when I was like 18. So as soon as I divorced, I called there and the same manager worked there like 18 years later. So I was like, I have a job. So I went from waiting tables to being a team leader to being their guest service manager. And after a while, there was some changes going on there, and my GM got let go, and they brought another GM in, and he had no integrity, and I just could not work with him. Like, I just couldn't do it with a good conscience. So I started looking for another job, and I got a job as a restaurant manager at Panera Bread. And, man, let me tell you, they work hard. They got some good food. They work really hard, and I was miserable. I never saw my kids. I worked like 60 hours a week. And but my job training for that was in St. Louis. So I lived about an hour and a half south. I live in St. Louis now, but then I lived about an hour and a half south of St. Louis. But I had to come up here because the headquarters is here to train. And I stayed at this hotel. It's a Hilton property, Hampton Inn. And Dennis was the guest service manager. Now, he's like 15 years older than me, and I've never dated anyone more than like a year or two older than me. And when the very first day I walked in to sign in to the hotel, you know, he was working, and he's just, you know, Dennis, like he just talks, you know, to anybody, and he's just a super friendly guy. But I was so drawn to him, like energetically. So, but I need to back up a little bit, because I had that distant session with my shaman. And remember, I told you it was the most powerful. Well, at that time, after I divorced, I had reconnected with one of my best friends, guy friends, from the time I was 12. And we started dating, and I was just madly in love with him, but it wasn't going good. Like, he had his own issues. And I had told my guides before that distant session with my shaman that if he wasn't meant to be a part of my journey, that, you know, I would walk away, which was going to be like a death to me, you know, because he had been my best friend forever. So then I would have to be letting go my best friend or whatever. So, and when she called me after the session was over, the first thing she said to me is, "Are you ready to let go of him? Because you're in a karmic relationship. And if you do not let him go in this lifetime, you're going to spend however many lifetimes doing this over and over and over again until you get it right." And I was so miserable. You know, you love somebody, but I was so unhappy. And I was like, what? You know, like a hamster on a wheel type of thing. Like, I'm just going to keep going through this. And so I made up my mind right then, because I said I would do whatever they told me. And one thing she did say was, if you don't let him go, there's a soul waiting for you to come into your life. But if you do not let him go, he's not going to be able to come into your life in this incarnation. And I'm like, really? Okay. Well, so then I let him go mainly because I wanted to live my purpose. I was just so firm in doing that. And so I let him go, and it was super duper painful. And this was in the midst of me staying for training at Dennis's hotel. So Dennis and I, you know, he worked Monday through Friday, and I'd go down and get my coffee. We'd talk, and we developed like a friendship. But I thought he was married, and he thought I was married. And that was that. You know, we're just like, hey, how are you doing? But I still felt very drawn to him. He just has such a good energy about him. And so my 6 weeks of training were up, and I left, and we said our goodbyes. And I was like, okay, well, I guess he's not the one, that the soul that's waiting on me, you know. And then I came back like a month later for 3 final days of training. And when I walked into the hotel, the girl was like, oh, I told Dennis his girlfriend was checking in today or something like that. And I'm like, what? I was like, girl, what are you talking about? He's married. And she's like, no, he's not. He's been divorced for 10 years. I'm like, what? She goes, but he thinks you're married. And I said, no, I'm not married. And I said, wow, you know, and she goes, call him. And I said, no, I'm not that girl. I was like, where I come from, the boy chases the girl. You know, if he wants to talk to me, he can call me. She's like, he's never going to call you. He's not going to call you. He's not going to call you. He's just not like that. And he was kind of timid. You know, he hadn't, after his divorce, he was just like, didn't date anyone for like 10 years. You know, those people that get divorced and they're like, okay, I'm done. Like, I'm just going to live my life now. And so she's like, here's his number. And she was so persistent. Like, have you ever had someone try to push you to do something you totally didn't want to do, but you just did it because it was the pressure was just too much? So I called him, and we ended up talking for like 2 hours. And I was like, hey, you want to go get a drink or something? But because like the next day I was leaving for my last day, and it's like, I can't. It was his daughter's birthday or something like that. So the next day I was leaving, and he's like, well, let me give you a hug goodbye. I'm like, okay, you know. So we had this little innocent hug, and he gave me his email. So I got to work, and I was, you know, you can email from your phone. So I just emailed him and said, hey, this is my email or whatever. But on the way, after he gave me his email address, And I was like, we're really going to connect, you know? I go to work, I'm going to work, and Panera has this massive parking lot with like 1,000 parking spaces. And I drove around, and I could find one open space in the whole parking lot. And I pulled in to this space, and the car was a Dodge Journey Crossroad. And on the plates, it didn't have like a regular plate number, but the plate cover said Menard, which is his last name. And, you know, the whole way to work, I was just grinning ear to ear. Like, I got his email address. Why am I so giddy? Oh my God, you know, just being total girl. And so then he emails me back. So that is what you would call a synchronicity. I don't know if you know a lot about that, but basically it's like a sign from the universe, like, hey, pay attention, you know? So then he emails me back, and he's like, are you a witch or something? And I'm like, no. And he said that he had a guest call and give him his reservation number to pull up his reservation. And he said, I put the number in and your reservation came up. And I was like, he said, okay, well, I don't know how that happened. He goes, it's not like I knew it by heart, your reservation number. So he said, I had the guy tell me again, backed all out, put the guy's reservation number in again. And my reservation from like, it was the reservation from like the very beginning came up.
Wow.
Like 2 months ago. And so that was just bizarre. He's like, sir, I'm gonna have to call you back. So that happened. And then, so I've never, ever been in a relationship where the universe was like knocking me over the head left and right. Like weird things were happening. The first time we went on a date, he came to Cape Girardeau, where I lived. And I took him to Rita, my tree, you know, just let him know my crazy stuff right off the bat. And there was a rock laying above the tree, but it didn't look like a normal rock. You know, we were like, what is that? And I picked it up. And when I turned it over, it said, love has no boundaries. Just random. So then we go back to his truck, and he had left his windows down, and a feather floats in the window and then blows right out the other side as he's sitting there when we first got in the truck. And then the first time we ever got a hotel together, yes, we're bad like that. The first time we ever got a hotel together, we walked in, and the little card that, you know, I guess the housekeeper, whatever, it said, hello, my name is Destiny. I mean, so it was just like that kind of thing happening over and over again. And so we knew that we were at a crossroads in our life. Like, this is a person that I'm supposed to spend time with for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And as you know, we now own our business, which has been successful, and I'm really proud of it. And it's exciting, and like just how far we've come in the little amount of time that we've been together is incredible. It's incredible. So that's kind of a cool story.
Yes, it is. I love a good love story.
I mean, you know, it is. And we're both very outgoing, very passionate people. And for the most part, we get along great. I mean, there's been a couple times we've made each other fire mad, you know, but that's so rare. Most of the time we're just like, I love you sickeningly like 20 times a day. So
yeah. And not to do the me too thing, but
yeah,
my wife and I have a series of bad relationships in my past. You know, it just never worked.
yeah.
But when I moved back home, I met her about 6 months later, and she had a boyfriend at the time. We had a mutual friend. We went to a house party together. You know, it was actually, a house party sounds wild. We went to a game night. We would play our board games. Okay. But I was a drunk back then. I drank every day.
We all had our
Yeah. Yeah, this was in the middle of my darkest times. I think that's why God sent her to me.
Aw,
But oh,
sorry. Hold
that's
on.
okay. Yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah, she had her boyfriend there and stuff, but I didn't care. I was flirting with her anyway because I liked her. And he got so mad that he walked out. She was his ride. He left his
Mhm.
shoes in the living room. Like he just left, and she stuck around for about half an hour, and
Aw.
then when she went home, she of course picked him up to give him a ride, and he told her that he knows what's going on and he can't compete. And that sounds really braggadocious, but I didn't mean it that way.
You
It's
are
just like
amazing. The lucky
it
girl.
was just like it was just obvious, that
Yeah.
things were going this way. And so, we talked to each other a little bit, and I invited her to come up. And our first date, I ordered a pizza, and we watched Twilight. But
Oh,
I told her, I said, you can stay as long as you want, and she has never left.
oh, that's
Uh,
awesome.
we've been beside each other. It's like we've known each other all our lives. It's just been 10 years of bliss. And of course there's some fights here and there, we argue over stuff, stupid stuff, but I know where you guys are coming from. That's why I love hearing your story. I
Yeah,
love it
it's
when people find a person,
yeah. And I think too, you have to go through some bad relationships and you have to be strong enough to leave them
Yes.
when you know that they're not for you. It took a lot of strength for me. I mean, I didn't ever think I would have the strength to do that. But if something is not meant for you, it's just not. There's plans for your life. And if someone is not a part of the plan, I think he was a lesson for me. But
Yes.
the biggest lesson was being able to love myself and walk away and know that to love myself and I deserve better. And I see so many people not being able to do that. And I get it, man. I do. But it panned out pretty good once I got through the hard times. So that's so cool. I'm happy and I can't wait to meet her.
Oh yes. Yes. If I could pull her away from Desperate Housewives in there in the living room, I'd have her come in here, but she's a little camera shy. So.
Well, tell her I get it because I was a nervous wreck before this. I was like, oh my God. But so anyway, that's our story. And did you have any questions on that?
I don't think so. That when you said the feather floated through the window, I felt like I was watching a Hallmark rom-com or something. I loved it.
That's what it was like. And it's so great because my kids, they love him. My grandkids love him. And he's been with my one grandson since he was born, and he follows Dennis everywhere. He's
Yeah.
18. That's his grandpa, and he's crazy about him. And so even though my dream for my life didn't come the way I thought it would, I still got it. And I have realized at this age that that's the way God works a lot. You can pray for what you want and have your vision of it. You
Yeah.
may get it, not be anything like you thought it would be.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but I have of course we have to get to Bigfoot.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. I'm ready if you are.
Well, I have one more short story and I'll go fast.
Yeah.
And I heard you talking about this in the last podcast with a young lady about the name of Jesus and how powerful it is.
Yes.
Something that I always taught my kids, that if they were ever in trouble or afraid, that there was power in the name of Jesus and all you have to do is say it and he's with you. Well, this was about 2.5 years ago. I was going down to Cape Charter where my family lives, an hour and a half south of St. Louis, and it was raining a little bit, and I was taking Dennis's truck, and I dropped him off at work. And after all this happened, he told me that when I drove off, he was like, I think she's going to have an accident. And it wasn't really raining that hard. It was kind of just like a drizzle, but it was raining. And I was driving down the highway and just going to normal speed. And all of a sudden I started hydroplaning, and the back end of the truck went completely turned around till I was facing an 18-wheeler going 70, 80 miles an hour. Who knows how fast he's going? And, you know, it was the oddest thing. I had like such a feeling of peace, and I just knew that that was it. I was like, you know, I'm going to die, because he was just so close to me.
Yeah.
And I literally had no control. And I just took my hands off the wheel and I cried out, Jesus, Archangel Michael. And before I could even get the words out of my mouth, the back end of the truck flew all the way around till I was facing forward. And the truck went across 2 lanes, like defied physics. I mean, it just went and parked me in the median. My hands were not on the gas, the brake, anything. Just stopped facing forward in the median. And I was so shook. I thought, man, the people that just saw this were like, what just happened?
Yeah.
I mean, that, when I felt that power, it's like friggin' Superman. You know, it's like, I felt it, that's what it reminds me of. Like when you're a kid, you would think it was like Superman. Like I could feel the force of something just moving the truck, and it really did defy physics. I mean, there's no way this could have happened. And but after that experience, I read something crossed my path, that it said that a thought can travel the entire universe before a word can come out of your mouth. That's how powerful your thoughts are.
Yeah.
Because before I could even utter the words fully, come help me, I was already being saved.
I love it.
So, yeah. You know, Archangel Michael, my shaman taught me about Archangel Michael. He was created to do God's work, to be a protector, and he's a powerful protector. And I have a lot of stories about him, but anyway, so that's the short of that one.
I love it. And
Yeah.
anytime we want to get into the Archangel Michael stories, I'd love to hear those too. You know, this is my selfish reasons for doing this show. You know, I love talking about this stuff. I love hearing people's experiences, and you know, I like hearing the scary stuff. I like hearing the, you know, the Bigfoot stuff, but I like to learn
Sure.
at every chance I get. And I don't think my spiritual journey is going to end anytime soon. You know what I mean? I like to hear and learn. So
Yeah, of course. I think we're all always learning. I learn something every day.
Yes.
So that's cool. And yeah, I love all that same stuff. We love listening to your podcast. I love listening to different people's thoughts and views and their experiences. And we're Bigfoot junkies here for sure.
Yeah.
We're always like, is there anything new on Google about Bigfoot? You know, because so much. But so we found out about Tubi. Have you heard of Tubi?
I have Tubi, yeah, but I have never watched it. It's just, it came with the Fire Stick thing I got Jess for Christmas or her birthday or whenever it was.
Well,
And
it's pretty cool. I mean, it's free, but there's good movies out there. And there's some cheesy ones. There is some mega cheesy Bigfoot movies out there.
Yeah.
But one that was pretty all right. So, anyway, last story. I think that's the last one for now. But this is our Bigfoot story. So when I have always been interested in Bigfoot. My sister had a book about the abominable snowman when I was little, and I loved it. You know, I've always been fascinated, but I didn't believe. You know, it was just kind of like a thing. You know, like Bigfoot. You know, and when I met Dennis, you know, he was hardcore. You know, and he talked about his experience, which you had your whole episode 5 with him, and
yeah.
you know, now that I know him so well. I know that happened for him. And it's just crazy. You know, I can't even imagine what that was like for him.
Yeah.
But we like to get outdoors a lot. And there's a special place here. And I don't really want to say where it was for, you know why.
Yeah.
Because I want people to go there and try to find Bigfoot and harm this Bigfoot in any way or whatever.
Right.
But we were going hiking, and this place is incredible. I call it Neverland because it's in Missouri, but it's like this whole ecosystem, and it's got waterfalls and tons of mushrooms and like red fairy mushrooms, and just you feel like you're like in a wonderland when you're there. I don't even feel like I'm in Missouri. And so we went hiking, and it was his daughter, me. It was him and his daughter and me. And he told us, his daughter and I, before we went in, that there was a female Bigfoot there. And we were like, making fun of him and laughing and carrying on. And he's like, yeah, I've hiked her several times and she faces me up on the ridge or whatever. And so we just thought it was full baloney. And it's like it's a good family hike. It's like 4 miles. There's lots of hoodoos and cool stuff, caves. And so we get through it, and I'm just going crazy taking pictures because it's just incredible, because it had rained a couple days before we went. So there was just streams and brooks, and it was just beautiful. And so we get through our hike. Now, there was a part in the hike where we heard tree knocks, his daughter and I, because we both at the same time are like, oh, and what did you hear? And we told him, and he's like, I heard a call, which we didn't hear. But that kind of weird stuff apparently happens a lot. So that's it for that trip. We didn't see any footprints or anything. We did see a turtle that had been completely plucked out of its shell.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I've got that picture too. We thought that was kind of odd. So anyway, so we go on this amazing hike, and he had told us, the female Bigfoot was there, and we told him he was full baloney. And we get home, and like 2 months later, I was running out of room on my phone because I had so many pictures. So I had some time, and I was just going through all my pictures. I'm flipping through, and I get to this one picture, and I remember taking this picture because there's like a little stream, and it was just a pretty scene. And I stood at the bottom of this stream and took a picture. And I didn't see anything that day when I took the picture. But 2 months later, I'm looking through my pictures, and I'm like, what is that? Because it was really dark. It was a dark figure, and it just didn't fit with any of the colors or anything else in the picture. And so I zoomed in, and I mean, my heart, like my stomach, I felt like I was on a roller coaster. Like it just was doing flips, because it was a Bigfoot.
Yeah.
And it was a female Bigfoot because she has boobs. And I just was freaking out. So I text Dennis at work, and I'm like, I'm freaking out. I got a picture of a Bigfoot from when we went hiking, and it's a female, just like you said. And he's like, I told you, because people who see Bigfoot are always trying to be vindicated because no one believes them. Right. And so needless to say, like, I believe 100% now, because you've seen the picture, and it hasn't been internet debut. So I'm sure people are going to be picking it apart. But it's, from the point I was taking it, there's some leaves and stuff that kind of hang down over different parts of her. So it's a little bit distorted. But anyway, she's there. But here's the kicker, as we were looking at it even a few months after that, tripping out on it, we've our close circle, our best friends and our kids and stuff. And there's another one, what we think is another one, and it's a huge male. So anyway, questions?
Yes, I got one question.
Can I share the pictures right now?
Yeah, please do. You know, when the new year came around, I was like, I know what I'm going to do for the new year. I'm going to make Bo Kennedy so happy. I'm going to let him make our picture public, because we've been reserved about showing it because I don't really care people what they think, I guess. But the main thing is we don't want anyone to go there and cause her harm, because obviously she's been there for a while.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm going to see if this works. All
Okay.
right, you ready?
Yeah.
This is the first picture.
Okay, hold on. Yeah, that's the first picture. So can you see the view that I see? I just made it bigger.
I
Okay.
cannot see you, but I was enlarging it as you spoke, I think.
Okay. So the black figure in the back there on the left was what I saw. And I was like, okay, that's not a tree because there's nothing above the head. And, you know, so then I have like this Photoshop that I could really crop it and see it up close. So I did that, and I think you have that picture.
Right here.
Okay.
Are you seeing it?
I don't see it. Hold on.
Oh, maybe I need to share a different screen here. Let's see. Let me try this one. There you go.
Okay. All right. Okay. So if you zoom in a whole lot on this photo, you will see the two breasts, and they hang very naturally. Like you can see like the natural,
Yeah.
there they are. And the belly. And I almost wonder if she's pregnant, because her belly
Yep.
kind of might stick out, but she's got her hands on her hips, and you can see like over her face, there's a leaf from a tree that's obscuring that part of the face. And there's a leaf on the right that's obscuring her shoulder.
Yeah. You can definitely see the definition of her shoulders.
Yeah.
You know, how wide. Definitely a female body.
Yeah, it's like her hands are on her hips. And if you go down a little bit, you can see her leg. Like she's standing there like in a stance.
Yeah.
And you know, her energy, it just seems so curious to me. Like she's sweet. You know, she would probably be like the ideal Bigfoot you could leave a gift for. She just looks really curious because but I did not see her. I did not see her when I was taking that picture, but I don't know that I was really looking in that direction. I was just looking at, I don't even know. I didn't see her. But there is the big one that I don't have a blow up of that one, I don't think. But if you zoom in on it, you might be able to see it. He's further up on. All right, let me see here. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
My whole my contraption just fell apart. Okay. If you look, this is such a trip. I still am freaked out about this. If you look back towards the middle of the picture, okay, see where your cursor is, go to the right or go over right there. That is like the back. And if you look right, like go up a little and right there's like his face, like he's looking over his shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see what I see?
Let me see.
Now, I mean, I can't guarantee you that that's another Bigfoot, but I think it is. It's really wide. It looks like it has long arms, and it's kind of like its back is to me, and he's looking at her over his shoulder.
Okay. I think where I've got this so big, I think it's too pixelated to see.
Okay.
I think Dennis has sent me a picture.
Huh?
I think Dennis sent me a picture of this, of the male when but I was sworn to secrecy. I couldn't talk about it, couldn't share it, and I
Love it.
honored that to this day.
You played a trick on him and told him that I sent it to the BFRO. And I never told him the truth because he told me a lie about something, a lie joke, and total ass out of me. So this was my payback, and I heard him telling my daughter about it, and I was like, "Oh no, I was just kidding." He's like, "What?" But I mean, to me, it's an incredible picture. I showed it to a friend of mine. He used to be on the Bama Boys. It was like I don't know if you ever saw that. It was on Travel Channel. It was like a paranormal show.
I think so.
Yeah. His name is Jonathan, and I went all through elementary school with him, and he was like one of the main creators of it. And he told me that he also had a Bigfoot experience. He goes, you would think I would believe in Bigfoot. I have this paranormal show. He goes, and I didn't. And he goes, I spent the night on the back of Pikes Peak with my friend, and we had one circle our tent all night long.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so he saw the picture, and he's like, that's incredible.
Yeah, that'll make a believer out of him, won't it?
Mm-hmm. So I'm excited. It's exciting for me,
Yeah. That's super exciting. And thank you.
You're
and thank you, Dennis, if you can hear me.
Yeah,
I love you guys.
He's been roaming around here like pacing and staring at me. So thank you though. I enjoyed it, and I hope that, I know there's probably people that disagree with things that I said, but all I can say is that was my experience, and if it can help even one person, then that's good.
Yes, absolutely. And I really learned a lot on this episode. This is easily one of my favorites. You guys are great. You guys are awesome.
We love you too. We want to come visit.
Absolutely. Anytime you come anywhere near West Virginia, holler at me.
We'll be there. We'll have to do some Bigfoot hunting.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Bo.
Hey, thank you, Ashley. Y'all have a good night, okay?
Okay, you too. Take care.
I'll talk to y'all later. You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.